A single shout shattered the gala's polished silence. "Don't eat that dessert." The words weren't just a warning. They were a man's last stand against a CEO's power. Darian Merrick, a janitor with nothing to lose, lunged forward as guards surged to stop him. But why would a man risk everything over a slice of cake? The answer lies in a tiny vial, a ghost from his past, and a daughter whose life hangs in the balance. The gala's chandeliers glittered over silver trays of delicate pastries. Crystal glasses clinked. Then one voice sliced through the hum. "Stop, don't eat that." Darian Merrick moved before thinking. His spotless work shoes squeaked against marble as he lunged toward Evangeline Reed's table. The CEO's fork froze mid-air, hovering over a slice of almond torte decorated with gold leaf. Security intercepted him 3 steps shy. 2 guards wrenched his arms behind his back, his uniform sleeve ripped at the seam. "Acacia oil," Darian gasped, struggling against their grip. "Check the ingredients. There's acacia oil in the glaze." Silence dropped over the ballroom. 100 tailored suits and evening gowns turned to stare, plates lowered. Evangeline Reed's manicured fingers set down her fork with deliberate precision. Her gaze traveled from the dessert to Darian's strained face. Time fractured into micro moments. The security chief whispered into his earpiece. A waiter adjusted his tray. Someone's nervous laugh cut off mid-breath. Then the world snapped back, into motion. "Remove him," Evangeline said, not shouted, not even raised. A conversational tone that carried like a gunshot. Darian didn't resist as they marched him out. The scent of almonds and honey lingered in his nose, triggering memories like tripwires. 5 years ago, another dessert had carried that same, barely there, sweetness. A cafe sampler plate. His wife Elena's surprised gasp. Then the swelling, the choking, the ambulance that arrived 12 minutes too late. The service exit door hit his back. Cold air slapped his face as he stumbled onto the loading dock. His badge clattered to the pavement beside him. Inside that torte lay a ghost. Not just any allergen. Acacia oil was rare in commercial kitchens. The exact same compound that had killed Elena during her pastry chef apprenticeship. The substance their daughter Ivy had inherited the lethal sensitivity to. Corporate catering invoices would show nothing unusual. No special orders, no paper trail, just another undocumented substitution, another corner cut in a high-stakes kitchen. He'd tried reporting similar incidents 3 times since Elena's death. Always too late, never with proof. Ivy's medical file told the real story. 17 pages of allergy test results and emergency protocols. The EpiPens he kept taped in every room of their tiny apartment. The way her small fingers sometimes twitched toward her throat when unfamiliar foods appeared. Darian picked up his badge. The plastic was cracked where his photo smiled awkwardly under the Reed International logo. He'd lasted 9 months this time, longer than most jobs since the funeral. Headlights flashed across the dumpsters. A black sedan pulled up to the curb, tires crunching gravel, the rear window lowered halfway. "Get in," said a voice he recognized instantly. Darian squinted at the silhouette. Evangeline Reed's profile cut a sharp line against the leather interior. The woman who'd just fired him now waited with her engine running. He hesitated. Ivy's 5th birthday photo peered up from his wallet where it had fallen. Her gap-toothed grin matched Elena's perfectly. The sedan's door clicked open. Darian's apartment smelled like antiseptic and wax crayons. The sharp scent of asthma inhalers mixed with the waxy residue of Ivy's drawings scattered across the kitchen table. A battalion of medical supplies lined the countertop. Nebulizer parts in sterile bags, backup EpiPens still in their packaging, a handwritten chart tracking Ivy's peak flow readings. He unbuttoned his stained janitor's shirt, fingers brushing against the photo in his breast pocket. The edges were softened from handling. Elena grinned up at him from a sun-drenched picnic blanket, her dark curls catching the wind. Pre-Ivy days. Before the cafe. Before the paramedics pronounced the 2nd round of epinephrine unsuccessful. He still heard the ambulance siren whenever. He closed his eyes. That rising, oscillating wail that had carried his wife's choked gasps to the ER. The screen of his battered phone lit up. Dr. Vasquez's name flashed beside a voicemail icon. Darian pressed play and held his breath. Mr. Merrick, Ivy's latest lab work concerns me. Her IgE levels have doubled since June. At this sensitivity level, even trace exposure could... He stopped the message. Didn't need the details spelled out. The medical bills stuffed in the junk drawer said enough. Last month's allergy panel alone cost 2/3 of his paycheck. No insurance covered experimental desensitization therapies, not for a condition this rare. A pediatric immunology journal lay open on the couch. He'd highlighted a passage in yellow. Children of anaphylaxis victims often develop anticipatory physiological responses, hypervigilance manifesting as rash or dyspnea before allergen contact. Ivy had started waking up screaming about bad smells in her dreams. The fridge door held her latest artwork, a stick figure family under a lopsided sun. Elena floated in the corner as an angel with purple wings. Ivy had drawn herself holding Darian's hand so hard it looked like she was breaking his fingers. He checked the med bag for the 3rd time that hour. Inventory never changed. 2 OVQ. Injectors, prednisone tablets, albuterol ampules, the emergency protocol card with his work number circled in red. He ran his thumb over the embossed letters of Ivy's full name, Ivy Elena Merrick, as if touch could armor her against the world. The gala intervention wasn't his first. 3 times since Elena's death, he'd erupted into restaurant kitchens after catching that telltale almond honey scent. Always too late to prove anything. Last incident got him fired from the Hilton. The sous chef swore the dessert contained only natural flavors. Corporate catering invoices hid allergens behind vague terms. Acacia oil could appear as botanical extract or flavor enhancer. Suppliers rarely listed compound breakdowns unless required by law. 5 years since Elena's death and no regulations had changed. The bedroom door creaked. Ivy stood there clutching Mr. Bunn, her stuffed rabbit missing one eye. "Daddy?" Her wheeze was barely audible, the sound of air trying to squeeze through a blocked straw. He had the inhaler in her hands before she finished speaking. Slow breaths. Firefly, like we practiced. His palms spanned her entire back as she shuddered through the treatment. She exhaled hard. Smelled it again. He kept his voice casual while checking her throat for swelling. The bad dessert smell. She buried her face in Mr. Bunn's remaining ear. From over there, she pointed at the wall where Elena's old cookbooks gathered dust. Darian scooped her up, carrying her past the kitchen trash. Earlier, he'd ripped open every takeout packet, soy sauce, ketchup, sweetener, seeking hidden ingredients. Now the torn packets formed a shredded nest in the bin. "Let's read the dinosaur book again," he said, bypassing the bookshelf where Elena's patisserie manual still held her margin notes. Acacia pairs well with stone fruits, 5% max concentration. Ivy's fingers dug into his shoulder as he settled on her bed. Over her nightlight, their shadows made a monstrous shape on the wall, a giant cradling something fragile. His phone buzzed against the nightstand. Unknown number. "Daddy's got to take this, Firefly." He kissed her forehead. Cool, no hives yet, and stepped into the hall. "Mr. Merrick." The voice was polished marble. "This is Evangeline Reed." His back hit the wall. The CEO's name tasted like battery acid. "Turns out you were right about that dessert," she said. "And I'd like to discuss what else you might have noticed." Through the cracked bedroom door, Ivy coughed in her sleep. The sound hooked into his ribs like fishbone. "Say I'm interested," he said. "What's your offer?" Static hummed for 3 heartbeats. How does $250,000 sound? A click as she adjusted something. Car. Gears, perhaps, plus lifetime medical coverage for your daughter. The numbers hit him like defibrillator paddles. Enough to pay off the hospital, cover Ivy's experimental treatments, maybe even buy a house outside the city where air quality wouldn't wreck her lungs. "Bull," he said. "No one pays janitors that." "They do," she corrected. When that janitor's the only one who noticed someone tried to poison me. Down the hall, Ivy murmured in her sleep. Another cough. Dry, unproductive. The kind that preceded last winter's 3-day hospital stay. Meet me tomorrow, Evangeline said. Your daughter's file says she has an appointment at Children's at 9. My driver will collect you afterward. The line died. Darian stared at the darkened screen. In the bedroom, Ivy's breathing hitched. He knelt beside her bed, ear hovering above her parted lips, counting seconds between each shallow inhale. This was the ritual. The listening, the waiting, the space between breaths where Elena had slipped away from him. His phone lit up with a text, an address, a time, and 3 words that changed everything. Bring your curiosity. Morning light crept under the curtains. Somewhere outside, birds sang. Normal sounds for a world that refused to acknowledge how fragile its wiring really was. Ivy sighed in her sleep. He watched the rise and fall of her tiny chest, each breath a countdown to something he couldn't name. The Ferrari crouched at the curb like a panther, its black paint soaking up the morning light. Darian adjusted Ivy's oxygen monitor strap one last time before her checkup. The daycare supervisor frowned at the glossy car through the clinic. Window Evangeline Reed stepped out with the precision of a blade sliding from its sheath. No entourage, no designer sunglasses, just a woman in a tailored gray suit holding a manila folder. Shall we? She nodded toward the Ferrari's open door. Darian hesitated. Ivy's pediatric wing loomed behind them, its automatic doors wheezing, open and shut. That's not a car, he said. That's a statement. Everything's a statement. She handed him the folder. Medical trust documents, fully funded. Sign now, it activates today. The papers felt heavier than they should. Darian thumbed past the legalese to the appendix. Page 17 listed every treatment Ivy's insurance had redlined. Experimental immunotherapy, climate-controlled housing upgrades, lifetime medication coverage. The numbers hit 7 figures. Why me? Evangeline's lacquered nail tapped a clause on page 3. Because traitors don't expect the help to be listening. She walked him through the deal as the Ferrari purred through downtown. 250,000 signing bonus. Triple his janitor salary reinstated. A job title created just for him. Director of Internal Oversight. The catch? He'd ferret out whoever doctored that dessert. I fired Security Chief Branson this morning, she said. The tires hissed through a yellow light. He swore no caterer brought acacia oil into that ballroom. Toxicology reports say otherwise. Darian stared at the passing buildings. He knew Reed International's blind spots better than any executive. The 15-minute window when third-floor motion sensors reset. The off-books cleaning supply closet near the server room. The way VP Crown Secretary always left her keycard in her drawer at lunch. The car stopped outside corporate headquarters. Through the tinted windows, Darian saw his former supervisor escorting Branson off the premises. The ex-security chief's face was blotchy with rage. Evangeline didn't blink. Branson missed 3 red flags last quarter. An executive elevator, outage during a board meeting, unaccounted server room access, and now this. She turned to Darian. You noticed in 3 seconds what my $1 million security team ignored. They rode the service elevator to avoid attention. Steel walls reflected their distorted silhouettes, the CEO in Prada heels, the janitor in thrift store shoes. You're not hiring me for what I know, Darian said. You're hiring me because no one looks at the help. Her smile was thin. I'm hiring you because grief makes men into bloodhounds. The HR director's eyebrows climbed his forehead as he processed Darian's new paperwork. No probation period, unrestricted access, reporting directly to the CEO. The man's pen hesitated over the signature line. Problem? Evangeline asked. The HR director signed. Darian's old keycard still worked. The plastic was warm from sitting in the lost and found box. He clipped it to a fresh lanyard, black instead of custodial blue. His first office had windows. Reed left him with 2 things. an encrypted tablet containing every catering invoice from the gala, and a quiet warning. They'll test you, probably today. He found the provocation waiting outside the executive washroom. VP Adrian Crown's caramel macchiato slipped as Darian passed with a mop bucket. Hot liquid splashed across the tile. My apologies. Crown didn't look up from his phone. His Italian loafers stepped over the spill. You know what to do. Darian studied the pooling coffee. The angle was wrong for an accident. Crown had turned back toward him mid-stride, wrist tilting deliberately. He reached for the mop. 8 floors above, Evangeline watched the security feed. Her fingers tightened around a stress ball molded like the company logo. On screen, Darian knelt to wipe the floor, then paused. His fingers dipped into the coffee puddle, came away glistening. He sniffed once before wiping his hand on his trousers. The CEO's phone chimed with his one-word report, almonds. She canceled her afternoon meetings. By dusk, Darian had reconstructed Crown's movements for the past month. The VP's electronic keycard left a breadcrumb trail, unexplained trips to the sub-basement, after-hours access to the executive kitchen. Security footage from the gala night showed Crown lingering near the dessert table. At the 27:43 mark, his hand dipped toward the almond torte. The motion could have been adjusting the serving platter. Could have. Darian cross-referenced catering receipts. One discrepancy jumped out, a shipment of culinary-grade botanical extracts logged into inventory 3 hours before the event. No paper trail for who requested it. He pulled up Crown's corporate credit card. Adrian Crown's office smelled like good leather and bad intentions. The scent of his $2,000 chair mixed with something sharper, anxiety sweat clinging to custom wallpaper. Darian wheeled his cleaning cart past the threshold, its squeaky left wheel marking their unspoken agreement. The janitor was invisible here. The shredding bin overflowed beside Crown's desk, standard practice for VPs after important meetings. But one detail caught Darian's eye. The bin's contents stopped 3 inches below the rim. Someone had removed half the shredded paperwork before leaving. He nudged the bin with his knee. Paper strips rustled like dry leaves. At the bottom, something glinted. A tiny glass vial tucked between financial reports. No label, no lid, just residual oil clinging to its interior walls. Darian's pulse pounded in his throat. He didn't need to uncap it. The scent escaped anyway. That faint almond honey trace that had haunted his nightmares for 5 years. His fingers trembled as he palmed the vial. The same acacia concentration that killed Elena. The same trigger that could stop Ivy's lungs, mid-breath. Most toxicology samples reach labs in sterile containers. But corporate shred rooms tell the real story. Last year, a Fortune 500 embezzlement case cracked when forensic techs reassembled strips from a deputy's personal shredder. Human error. The man had forgotten to destroy one intact signature page. Darian snapped a photo with his phone. The flash reflected off the vial's curved surface, illuminating golden residue. Text alerts came seconds apart. Security feed shows Crown entering shred room 7:14 a.m. Again at 7:53. Then from Evangeline. Planted in 793.7. Company policy required 2 signatures for toxin disposal. But protocol meant nothing to men like Crown, who treated rules as suggestions for lesser people. Darian's cart held a compartment behind the trash bags. The hidden space already contained 3 items: latex gloves, a backup phone battery, and today's edition of The Wall Street Journal. He tucked the vial inside the folded newspaper. The corporate library's rare books section collected dust in a climate-controlled alcove. Shelf 793.7 housed The Art of War, alongside Games of Deception. Darian ran his finger along the spines until he found the right thickness, a hollowed-out copy of The Art of Deception. The book's pages had been precisely excised to create a cavity deep enough for a thumb drive, or a vial. Security camera 12 covered the library's entrance, but not this particular carrel. Darian slipped the vial inside the book's secret chamber. It settled with a faint click against something metallic already hidden there. Modern assassins don't use syringes, Not when executive chefs can mix poisons into dessert glazes. Not when standard toxicology screens check for 12 common allergens. But not rare botanical extracts. Elena's autopsy took 3 weeks to identify acacia oil as the culprit. Too late for lawsuits. Too late for warning labels. Darian's phone buzzed again. He's moving. Crown's assistant was switching departments. Effective immediately. The woman who always left her keycard unattended at noon. His other messages stacked up. Black car idling at loading dock. 5. Shredding service came early today. Floral delivery to Crown's wife. Roses, no card. Pattern recognition fired in Darian's brain. This wasn't just corporate espionage. Crown was burning evidence, rewriting history, preparing an exit. He caught the scent again as he exited the library, that almond honey trace clinging to his sleeve. Ivy would smell it instantly. Kids with lethal allergies develop olfactory radar. Their noses learn to detect threats before conscious thought registers them. He'd have to change clothes before pickup. The service elevator arrived empty. Darian pressed the button for basement 2. He needed 5 minutes at his old custodial locker. Enough time to scrub his hands with industrial soap guaranteed to strip oils. The elevator shuddered between floors 3 and 2. A metallic groan echoed through the shaft. Then the lights flickered. Darian's thumb hovered over Evangeline's direct line. The outage matched Crown's calendar note from yesterday. AVAC maintenance. Expect brief disruptions. Too convenient. When the doors finally opened, the basement hallway stretched empty. No maintenance crews, no utility carts. Just motion sensor lights clicking on one by one as he moved toward the custodial closet. Inside, Darian flicked on the sink's hot water. Steam rose as he scrubbed his hands raw. The mirror above the basin showed dark circles under his eyes. Ivy's latest asthma flare had kept him up 3 nights straight. His phone vibrated against the porcelain. Evangeline calling. They found it, she said without preamble. The bank just called Reed International's general counsel. Someone tried to access the legacy vault. Darian turned off the faucet. Water dripped from his fingers onto the tile. Crown? His signature's on the access log. But the vault requires 2 things, a retinal scan and a physical key. The last piece clicked. Darian shut his eyes. Elena's cookbook flashed behind his eyelids, her handwritten note about acacia oil's almond-like aroma. Nearly undetectable in desserts, deadly above 3% concentration. The vial wasn't the smoking gun, he said. The vial was a test run. Evangeline's voice went cold. Crown's accomplice works in our lab. They synthesized enough acacia oil to kill 50 people. Darian's stomach lurched. Ivy's daycare served almond milk on Fridays. Her classroom kept snack bins with communal utensils. Any number of vectors. He reached for the paper towels as his phone buzzed again. This time, Ivy's school number. Mr. Merrick? The administrator sounded breathless. Ivy's having a reaction. We administered her EpiPen, but the ambulance, Darian was already running. The night air hit his face like a slap as he burst onto the street. Taxis blurred past. He fumbled for his phone, for his keys, for any shred of control. Then he saw it. A black sedan parked across from Reed International. Crown's driver leaned against the hood, polishing an object that caught the streetlight's glow. A brass key. Darian lunged toward the curb. Horns blared. Brakes screeched. His vision narrowed to that glinting metal, the twin to whatever Crown had just tried using at the bank. Ivy's ambulance siren wailed in the distance. The same rising, oscillating pitch he'd heard 5 years ago outside the cafe. History wasn't repeating itself. It was escalating. Server room 3's constant hum vibrated through Darian's molars. The sound wasn't just electric, it pulsed like a nervous system. He pressed his back against the chilled server rack, counting seconds between thermal scans. Guard Henderson's boots squeaked 30 feet away. Right on schedule. The biometric terminal glowed in the dark. Evangeline's orders had been specific. Crown's private calendar held the timetable. The drive in Darian's pocket weighed less than a stick of gum, but its contents could collapse empires. He waited for the scanner's red beam to pass. 1 second per cycle. The pattern never varied. Henderson's route took him past the fire exit, around the backup generators, then back to the main corridor. Darian had 43 seconds of darkness between sweeps. Corporate espionage rarely involves shadowy hackers. Studies show 73% of data theft happens through authorized personnel with low-level access: janitors, interns, temp workers. People no one notices. Darian's new keycard still listed him as custodial staff. The terminal beeped softly as he swiped. The fingerprint scanner glowed blue. Evangeline had provided a latex thumbprint overlay, Crown's exact ridges copied from his whiskey glass. The screen unlocked. Progress bars filled as files copied. 12%. Darian's left hand tapped a silent rhythm against his thigh. 34%. The air vent above rattled, making his shoulders tense. 67%. Henderson's radio crackled in the distance. Most corporate moles get caught during extraction. Not when planting bugs or stealing files, when leaving the scene. Darian had mapped 3 separate exit routes earlier that morning. He'd timed each against guard rotations. A calendar entry flashed on screen. Finalize asset transfer, Swiss. Team confirmation required. Dated 3 days after the gala. 3 days after someone slipped acacia oil onto Evangeline's dessert plate. Darian's fingers stilled. The timeline snapped into focus like puzzle pieces locking together. Elena's death hadn't been random. It had been research, test runs for delivery, methods, dosages, reaction times. Now Crown was moving to Phase 2, Evangeline's poisoning, followed by a coordinated financial heist under cover of corporate chaos. The USB drive blinked green. 98% complete. Henderson's scanner light flickered awake at the far end of the corridor. Right on schedule. But something was off. The guard's footsteps came faster this time. Sharper. Darian yanked the drive free as the progress bar hit 100. The screen snapped back to login. He dropped behind a server tower just as Henderson's flashlight beam sliced through the aisle. Maintenance log says we got a ventilation check tonight. Henderson's voice carried. That you, Rios? Silence. Darian held his breath. The drive dug into his palm. His janitor uniform blended with the shadows, but one cough, one squeak of his shoes would give him away. The radio crackled again. All units, we got a 1032 in progress on sublevel 2. Suspect last seen near archives. Henderson's boots pivoted. The flashlight beam swung away. Copy that, en route. The scanner light retreated. Darian counted to 30 before moving. The elevator doors were too exposed. He headed for the service stairwell. Narrow, rarely used, no cameras. His phone buzzed against his thigh. Evangeline. Crown activated emergency. Protocols. Vault access initiated. The brass key in his pocket suddenly felt heavier. Its teeth didn't match any door in Reed International. Now he understood why. Floor numbers blurred as he descended. Sublevel 2 meant the archives. Crown was after something paper-based, something digital systems couldn't replicate. Darian's mind raced through possibilities. Signature bonds, bearer shares, old-fashioned skeleton keys that could open physical vaults immune to cyber attacks. He burst into the third-floor corridor, just as the elevator dinged. Darian flattened against a fire extinguisher cabinet. Henderson stepped out, radio pressed to his ear. Negative contact in archive sector. Proceeding to... The guard froze. His nostrils flared. He'd caught a scent, either Darian's cheap detergent or adrenaline sweat. The emergency stairwell door stood 10 feet away. Darian could make it if he moved now. But Henderson's hand hovered, near his sidearm. Then the guard's radio erupted in static. Code Black, I repeat, Code Black, CEO's vehicle under attack. Henderson sprinted for the elevators. Darian exhaled. The brass key's teeth left crescent marks in his palm. He knew exactly where Crown was heading now. The same place all corporate Thieves go when digital systems fail them. The service elevator arrived empty. Darian hit the button for sub-level 3. Some doors don't open with key cards or retinal scans. Some safes ignore firewalls and encryption. And sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room isn't the CEO or the security chief. It's the janitor who knows where the real skeletons are buried. The elevator doors slid shut on Henderson's confused face. The brass key in Darian's pocket felt suddenly alive. A relic from an analog age, waiting to unleash digital havoc. Sub-level 3's lights flickered as the car descended. The building's oldest systems ran down here. Pneumatic tubes, manual override switches, the original vault. From when Reed International was just a family bank. Darian's phone buzzed again. Hospital caller ID. Ivy's ward. His thumb hovered over the answer button as the elevator shuddered to a stop. The doors opened onto darkness, not a power outage. Strategic lighting kill. Someone didn't want witnesses down here. Darian pocketed his phone. The unanswered call would have to wait. Some games required all-or-nothing plays. His shoes scuffed concrete as he stepped forward. Somewhere in the blackness ahead, a vault door groaned on its hinges. The sound echoed like a tomb opening. Exactly 43 seconds later, just as Henderson's thermal scans had taught him, Darian heard the distinct click of a brass key turning in an ancient lock. History, it seemed, was repeating itself after all. The brass key weighed nothing in Darian's palm. Its teeth gleamed under the fluorescent lights. 9 precise notches that matched no door in Reed International. He turned it over, catching the serial number etched near the bow. Z772049. The same digits appeared on the vault receipt he'd found tucked in Crown's desk calendar. Corporate heists rarely rely on pure digital theft. Forensic accountants note that major financial thefts often require physical key transfers, analog safeguards built into systems too ancient or too critical for modern encryption. Darian had spent 3 hours cross-referencing bank records before finding the match. The key fit a legacy vault at Swiss United Private Banking, one holding Reed family cryptographic seals. These weren't metaphorical seals. 16 solid gold cylinders, each inscribed with portions of the Reed family's master encryption algorithm. Together, they could authenticate any transaction, mergers, fund transfers, stock issuances, without digital fingerprints. A failsafe from the pre-computer age. Crown's encrypted emails referenced the physical transfer requirement in exact terms. The plan unfolded in Darian's mind like a trapdoor opening beneath him. Step 1. Poison Evangeline at the gala. Step 2. Blame the unstable janitor with the dead wife. Step 3. During the resulting chaos, access the Swiss vault. The brilliance was in the simplicity. Modern security focuses on firewalls and biometrics. Few systems guard against a man walking into a bank with the correct 19th century key. A bank manager wouldn't question it. The vault predated online verification protocols. Darian closed his fist around the key. The metal warmed against his skin. Ivy's medical chart flashed in his memory. Page after page of crossed-out treatment options his insurance denied. Any court would see his desperation. Prosecutors would call him the perfect patsy, a grieving father pushed to violence by medical debt. The hospital called again as he stepped off the elevator. 3 missed calls now. He thumbed the answer button. Mr. Merrick? The nurse's voice sounded strained. Ivy stabilized, but we need consent for... A crash echoed down the hall. Crown's office door flew open. 2 security guards dragged a thrashing IT technician toward the stairwell. The man's lanyard swung wildly. Crown's personal tech support, Evangeline, appeared in the shattered doorway. Her blazer sleeve was torn at the shoulder. He wiped Crown's terminal, she said. Every email, every calendar entry from the past 6 months, the tech screamed as they hauled him around the corner. You'll never prove it. The backup tapes are... Darian looked at the brass key, at the unmissable timing. The Swiss bank closed in 90 minutes. By morning, Crown's proxies could drain entire subsidiaries with those cryptographic seals. The pieces aligned like synapses firing. The gala poisoning wasn't the main event. It was rehearsal. Elena's death had been research and development, testing, dosage delivery method, emergency response times. Now they'd graduated from personal revenge to corporate annihilation. They'll need you to validate, Darian said. Evangeline froze. The Reed family's encryption system required dual authentication, the physical seals and one living family member's vocal confirmation. Traditional security would expect digital safeguards, two-factor, authentication, blockchain verification. This system was older, personal, built when a handshake meant something. Darian. He was already moving. The office windows faced east. From this height, he could see all the way to the hospital district. Somewhere over those rooftops, Ivy lay in a sterile room, her small lungs fighting against whatever poison Crown had slipped into her school snack. The brass key's teeth bit into his palm. Crown's plan had one flaw. Men like him always underestimated the help. Darian hurled the key through the window. Safety glass exploded outward in a crystalline web. Alarms shrieked. The key tumbled end over end toward the parking lot below, a tiny glint of metal against the afternoon sky. No. Evangeline lunged for the window. Too late. The key bounced once, on concrete before vanishing down a storm drain. 43 floors below, Crown's driver leapt from the black sedan, clutching his phone. His mouth moved in silent curses as he dropped to his knees, probing the grate with frantic fingers. Darian turned away from the window. The alarms drowned out Evangeline's questions. He pulled the vial from his pocket, the one from Crown's shredder. Bin, still faintly smelling of almonds. Forensics could prove it now. The chain of custody, the motive, the timeline. But evidence meant nothing without containment. Darian stepped into the service stairwell. The concrete stairs trembled underfoot as heavier boots descended somewhere below. He counted flights. Sublevel 2 housed the archives. Sublevel 3 the original vault. Crown would be panicking now. Without that key, his entire play collapsed. He still had the acacia oil, still had Ivy as leverage, but the Swiss withdrawal. Window closed in 83 minutes. The stairwell door creaked open onto Sublevel 3's darkness. Somewhere in the gloom, metal whined against metal, an antique vault door protesting its sudden use after decades of neglect. Darian's phone buzzed. The hospital again. He silenced it. Pipes overhead dripped condensation. His shoes stuck to the concrete with each step. This far below street level, sounds carried oddly. The scuff of his soles echoed like dragging chains. Then a new noise cut through the hum of forgotten machinery, a rhythmic clicking, like a lock being worked. Darian froze. The hair on his arms rose. That wasn't Crown struggling with the vault. That was the precise, patient sound of someone who knew exactly how to pick an antique mechanism. Crown had brought an expert. The realization hit like ice water. The plan hadn't depended on the brass key alone. It had merely been the cleanest option. Somewhere in the dark, a final tumbler clicked home. The vault door groaned open on unoiled hinges. 79 minutes until Swiss United closed its doors. Darian stepped forward into the blackness. A janitor knew all the back doors, but so did a rat. Glass exploded outward in a glittering arc as the brass key flew through Crown's office window. The security alarm's wail covered Darian's footsteps. 3 sharp strides to the service stairwell, 4 more down the concrete steps. His, lungs burned. The vial in his pocket bounced against his hip with each jarring descent. Sublevel 3's door stuck halfway open. Rusted hinges protested as he squeezed through. The air smelled of damp concrete and ozone. Flickering fluorescence revealed a corridor abandoned decades ago. Original reed bank signage still visible under layers of grime. Darian's fingers found the service panel beside the vault door. The dumbwaiter shaft hadn't been used since the 80s. Its access hatch resisted until he wedged his ID badge between the frame. Metal screeched. Footsteps pounded overhead. Crown's security team would hit the basement in 90 seconds. The dumbwaiter shaft measured 22 inches square, 3 inches narrower than standard models. Designed for document transfers, not human escapes. Darian shoved his shoulders in diagonally. Drywall crumbled as he forced himself deeper. Cold steel rails bit into his back. 72 feet directly above, elevator doors dinged open. Radio static crackled. Darian's left leg dangled outside the shaft. He twisted, knees scraping rusted guide rails. The vial shifted in his pocket. One hard bump could crack it open. His right shoulder popped, a sickening slide of bone against bone as he wedged himself fully inside. The shaft swallowed him whole. Darkness pressed like wet cloth against his face. The descent should have been simple. Grip the guide cables, lower hand over hand, but age had fused the pulleys. Darian's fingers slipped on decades of accumulated grease. 8 feet down, his dislocated shoulder jammed against a junction box. White pain flashed behind his eyes. Somewhere above, boots stomped through the sub-level corridor. "She's not here. Fan out. Check the archive rooms." Darian exhaled through clenched teeth. His right arm hung useless. Ivy's face floated in the blackness, her concentrated frown while coloring the way her nose scrunched when she laughed. He clenched the guide cable between his knees and wrenched his shoulder forward with a wet snap. The pain almost made him miss the crucial sound, the pneumatic tube station hissing to life beneath him. Reed International's original interdepartmental mail system still functioned on this level. Few knew the archive terminals connected directly to Evangeline's private office. Darian's toes found the service ledge 6 inches wide. The evidence canister lay heavy in his inner pocket. Standard corporate procedure required chain of custody documentation for hazardous materials. Crown had skipped that step. The vial Darian recovered bore 3 things: residual acacia oil, Crown's fingerprints, and most damning, a lot number matching the non-inventoried botanical extracts delivered before the gala. Darian fed the canister into the pneumatic tube. The system wheezed, then sucked it away with a hollow thump. Archive Station 301 would ping receipt in 17 seconds. A radio crackled directly overhead. Walker to command, found blood traces near the dumbwaiter access. Darian's fingers slipped. He dropped 10 feet before arresting his fall. The impact shuddered through his knees. Light filtered through a ventilation grate. Floor B2. The archive level. 1 floor below, the vault door creaked open. Metal rasped against metal as Crown's locksmith finished his work. Darian pressed his eye to the grate. The angle revealed slivers of movement. A balding man in a sweater vest pocketing lockpicks, Crown adjusting his cufflinks beside the gaping vault. The archive door burst open upstairs. "Clear!" Darian counted the seconds between each guard's footstep. He knew this building's rhythms better than his own heartbeat. The way the east stairwell's 3rd step creaked, the blind spot behind the electrical panel on sub-level 4, his belt buckle scratched against the shaft walls as he lowered himself another foot. The dumbwaiter terminated in the kitchen sub-level, a forgotten relic from when executives took lunch deliveries directly to their offices. Above him, a flashlight. Beam swept across the access panel he'd left ajar. "Got fresh scratches here. He went down." Darian's feet touched bottom. The kitchen sub-level door opened onto a narrow passage lined with defunct ice machines. He moved left instead of right, against all logic, toward the dead end where the building's original elevator shaft lay bricked over. A 3-foot gap remained between the wall and a dormant boiler. Darian twisted sideways, his torn uniform snagged on a pipe. The sound echoed. Boots pounded down the stairwell. The space narrowed to 11 inches. Darian exhaled completely, ribs compressing as he scraped through. The boiler's residual heat baked his back as he emerged behind a stack of wooden pallets. Archive Station 301 chimed upstairs, his canister arriving precisely on schedule. Crown's voice carried up the stairwell. "Forget the janitor. We have 73 minutes to make Zurich." Darian pressed his palm against the damp wall. 18 inches of brick separated him from the original elevator shaft, the building's forgotten spinal column. During renovations in '92, workers had sealed it improperly. His maintenance log showed residual space between the new drywall and old masonry. A crowbar leaned against the pallets. Most would assume it was construction debris. It was Crown's man who'd left it there after prying open the vault. Darian worked the flat end between the bricks. Mortar crumbled. 6 floors above, detectives would be examining the shattered window glass. The brass key would take days to recover from the storm drain, too late for Crown's schedule. Without those cryptographic seals, his entire financial play collapsed. The brick came loose with a gritty sigh. Cool air whispered through the gap. The original elevator car still stood frozen between floors, its manual controls long disconnected. But the shaft itself? That ran unobstructed from sub-level 3 to the roof. Darian twisted through the opening. His feet found the ladder rungs set into the shaft wall, thin steel strips barely visible in the gloom. 11 stories stretched above him. Somewhere behind the walls, Crown's team scrambled toward the parking garage. They'd assume he fled horizontally, not vertically. The first rung bent under his weight. Rust flaked off like dried blood. Darian climbed anyway, each upward pull straining his freshly reset shoulder. 25 rungs up, sub-level 2, voices filtered through the archive room vents. "You're sure this came from the vault?" Evangeline's voice. "Yes, ma'am." Matches. "The missing shipment exactly." Another voice, deeper. "Swiss United just called back. Someone's attempting emergency authentication." Darian kept climbing. The higher he went, the tighter the shaft became. Original blueprints shrank the upper levels to accommodate mechanical equipment. At the 14th floor, his shoulders scraped both walls simultaneously. A vibration thrummed through the metal. Crown's team revving engines in the garage. Standard protocols said to secure the building. Crown was abandoning them. Darian's fingers found the access hatch to the 39th floor mechanical room. The release mechanism hadn't been oiled in years. It screamed when he turned it. Daylight blinded him as he spilled onto the roof. Wind whipped his torn uniform. The downtown skyline spread in every direction. Reed International's shadow stretching halfway across the financial district. His phone had 1 bar of service. The hospital's last call showed Ivy's room number beside a timestamp from 23 minutes ago. Darian dialed. The rooftop door burst open behind him. "Freeze!" Henderson's pistol wavered. His radio blared overlapping commands. Darian raised one hand slowly, the one not holding his phone. The vial's outline showed clearly through his pocket fabric. "Stand down, Henderson." Evangeline's voice cut through the wind. She stepped onto the roof, her blazer flapping like battle colors. Swiss United just terminated Crown's access attempt. Police intercepted his car at the airport. The phone connected. A nurse's voice said, "Merrick Pediatric Wing." Darian's knees almost buckled. Behind Evangeline, 3 executives carried evidence bags containing the canister he'd sent. And whatever else they'd found in Crown's vault. "You hear that?" Darian said into the phone. His voice cracked. "Ivy there?" A pause. Then clear as sunrise. "Daddy?" The roof door slammed shut. The archive fluorescents buzzed like hornets. Crown's phone screen glowed with Ivy's hospital file. Room number, treatment schedule, security protocol codes. His thumb hovered over the call button as Darian lunged forward. 3 police officers, trained weapons on Crown. Evangeline stood with her back against the pneumatic tube terminal, coat flaring like a matador's cape. The air smelled of toner and blown fuses. One order and she dies. Crown pressed the screen against his lapel, shielding it from sightlines. The call connected. A voice said, "Merrick Pediatric Wing. Hostage negotiators call this the nuclear option. 97% of parents will concede to any demand when a child's life is the bargaining chip." Darian's knees locked. 5 years ago, he'd sat helpless in an ambulance while Elena's throat swelled shut. Now Crown's lips moved toward the receiver. "Code white." His voice hitched with adrenaline. "Repeat code." Evangeline's pistol barked once. The shot shattered Crown's phone into plastic shrapnel. His hand jerked back, palm bleeding. The impact drove him against the archive shelves. Medical journals rained down. Forensics later confirmed the math. A .40 caliber round traveling 1/200 feet per second through a smartphone held 6 inches from a man's face. The margin for error, 0.3 centimeters. Darian's phone vibrated in his pocket. Ivy's nurse, episode stabilized, new meds working. Crown screamed into the sudden silence. Not from pain, from realization. His leverage had just exploded along with his device. Police swarmed him before he could blink. Handcuffs clicked. The Ivy Merrick Lifetime Medical Trust activated automatically at 4:17 p.m., bypassing 11 layers of corporate red tape. Later, board members would call it executive overreach. Shareholders would question why the CEO personally discharged a firearm. Legal drafted 7 different press release variants. Darian slid down the wall. His torn uniform stuck to his back. The archive carpet smelled like dust and gunpowder. He was bluffing, Evangeline said. She ejected the magazine with practiced hands. Hospital security had already locked down Ivy's floor. Darian's fingers trembled around his phone. Ivy's latest drawing filled the screen. A stick figure family under a purple sun. Elena's angel wings took up half the page. Why? He meant the gunshot, the job, the Ferrari idling outside his apartment. Evangeline holstered her weapon. Her cufflinks bore the Reed family crest, a lion holding a key. You see what others filter out? Across the room, Crown thrashed against his restraints. She'll backstab you too. It's what she does. Police dragged him past the evidence table. The sealed vial glinted under forensic lighting. Its lot number matched the gala's mystery shipment. Darian stood on shaking legs. The motion activated his cracked phone screen. Another notification from the Ivy Merrick Trust. Experimental immunotherapy approved. First treatment scheduled for Thursday. 3 months later, autumn leaves skittered across the park sidewalk. Darian adjusted Ivy's oxygen monitor as she crouched over a picnic blanket. Her newest dinosaur drawing gained purple spots under Evangeline's guidance. The CEO wore jeans. No bodyguards, no Ferrari. Just a woman with ink-stained fingers helping a 6-year-old stay inside the lines. Press harder, Evangeline said. She placed her hand over Ivy's small one, guiding the crayon. The Lion King bandage on Ivy's elbow covered yesterday's immunotherapy port. Darian watched them both, waiting for the trap door to open. It never did. Psychological studies show crisis-forged bonds often outlast conventional alliances. The Ivy Merrick Lifetime Medical Trust now covered 17 children with rare allergies. Reed International's kitchens implemented allergen protocols stricter than most hospitals. Evangeline passed Ivy the purple crayon. Their hands brushed. One, ridged with old calluses, the other sticky with juice. Corporate histories rarely mention moments like these. The ledgers will show Darian's promotion to Director of Internal Oversight, the 37% drop in security breaches, the record quarterly profits. They won't record how Ivy whispered, "You smell like Daddy's old soap," when Evangeline hugged her goodbye, or how the CEO's Ferrari still idles outside their apartment most mornings these days. Not as a threat, as a carpool. Ivy's purple crayon rolled across the picnic blanket, stopping against Evangeline Reed's shoe. The CEO caught it, mid-slide without looking up from the dinosaur they were coloring. Her jeans had paint stains at the knees, actual fabric, not designer distress marks. The Ivy Merrick Lifetime Medical Trust paperwork fluttered under a juice box. Darian anchored it with his phone. 17 pages of treatment approvals and funding, schedules. No clause allowed revocation, no expiration date. Just Ivy's name etched across the top in raised lettering that caught the afternoon light. Across the blanket, Evangeline guided Ivy's small hand across the paper. Press harder here. Her manicure had chipped at the edges. Make his spikes really pop. Darian watched them both, waiting for the other shoe to drop, the trapdoor to open, the inevitable corporate reversal. It never came. Trauma bonds formed under fire last longer than boardroom alliances. Psychological studies show shared crisis creates neural pathways stronger than contractual obligations. Evangeline didn't offer Darian a job out of pity. The Director of Internal Oversight position leveraged his particular broken instincts. The hypervigilance that spotted a murder weapon disguised as dessert. The janitor's knowledge of institutional blind spots. The willingness to hurl a skeleton, key through a window when necessary. Corporate restructuring data shows janitor to executive transitions occur in 0.03% of cases, usually after preventing disasters, always with resistance from every middle manager whose worldview can't accommodate the jump. Ivy coughed once. Darian's hand twitched toward the emergency bag under the bench. Evangeline was already passing. The inhaler she'd retrieved from her own purse, a nondescript black model stocked with backup meds matching Ivy's protocol. Balance sheets don't list the important assets. Evangeline capped the marker with her teeth. She meant Ivy. She meant Darian. She meant this fragile equilibrium between crayons and corporate takeovers. The hospital wristband still clung to Ivy's ankle. Yesterday's round of experimental immunotherapy left her drowsy but hungry, the first solid food cravings in months. Her dinosaur Lunchable sat half-eaten on the blanket, the processed cheese precisely nibbled into T-Rex shapes. Darian's old uniform hung in his closet now, preserved beneath a dry cleaner's wrap. His new office had windows overlooking both the loading docks and executive parking, a deliberate design. Each morning he checked 2 security feeds, Ivy's classroom camera and the building's sub-basement access logs. Reed International's allergen policy now exceeded NIH standards. Ingredient tracing ran 7 layers deep. Whistleblower protections extended to all staff, especially those who sniffed danger before systems flagged it. Evangeline smoothed Ivy's dinosaur drawing between her palms. Think it needs glitter? No. Ivy kicked her feet. Dinosaurs didn't have glitter. Are we sure? Evangeline's phone buzzed against the blanket. The screen showed a blocked merger alert. She flipped it face down without breaking crayon rhythm. Maybe the T-Rex liked sparkles. Ivy giggled. The sound hooked behind Darian's ribs and pulled tight. 11 weeks ago, Crown's poisoned dessert had nearly silenced that laugh forever. Now it bounced off park benches while the man who ordered the hit sat in solitary confinement, awaiting trial for 3 counts of corporate homicide. Elena's murder finally added to the indictment. The brass key still sat unrecovered in a storm drain. Its absence prevented prosecutorial timelines from aligning. Without it, the Swiss vault scheme remained circumstantial. But the acacia oil vial from Crown's shredder told its own story. Identical concentration to Elena's autopsy results, matching lot numbers to the mysterious gala shipment. Enough for civil suits to cripple Crown's remaining allies. Darian's phone buzzed. Security alerts pinged in real time. Attempted data breach in accounting, unauthorized access to the archived personnel files. He thumbed the approval releasing countermeasures. New protocols sent such anomalies directly to his team before they reached Evangeline's desk. Ivy yawned against Evangeline's shoulder. The CEO didn't flinch at the sticky fingers clutching her sleeve. Her own blazer lay discarded on the grass, a navy puddle softening under the afternoon sun. 3 months ago, Darian couldn't imagine this tableau. A billionaire coloring dinosaurs. Corporate restructuring freeing funds for pediatric allergy research. The Ivy Merrick Trust now covering 17 other children with lethal sensitivities. Cases dropped by insurers for being too niche. Evangeline passed Ivy another crayon, fire engine red his angry color, and reached for Darian's phone without looking. She swiped past the alerts to a financial forecast. We're expanding the immunotherapy trials. Graphs scrolled under her thumb. Berlin needs 5 more participants for Phase 3. The math already balanced in her head. Reed's International stock had climbed 12 points since the boardroom takedown. Investors loved turnaround stories with clear villains and cleaner heroes. Darian took the phone back. His lock screen showed Ivy blowing out birthday candles last week, 6 flames reflecting in her widened eyes. No almond frosting, no custards with mystery extracts. Just supermarket vanilla cake with ingredient labels he'd triple-checked. In the park's fading light, the crayon wax took on a metallic sheen. Ivy's dinosaur grew purple spikes, crimson claws, a single golden eye that matched Evangeline's cufflinks exactly. The Ferrari still came most mornings. Not idling threateningly outside the apartment anymore. but parked openly at the curb as Ivy scrambled into the back seat clutching her lunchbox. Some days they dropped her at school first. Others went straight to read International, where a corner of Darian's office now held coloring books beside encrypted servers. One detail always caught security's attention. Evangeline reached for the seatbelt behind Ivy's shoulder before her own. Every time, corporate histories would record Darian's promotion as a PR stunt. Shareholder reports would credit the new security protocols with boosting productivity. The immunotherapy funding would be a tax write-off in the annual statement. No, Ledger would note how Ivy whispered, "You smell like Daddy's used to," when Evangeline hugged her goodnight, or how, when Darian hesitated outside their apartment one evening, Evangeline had simply said, "They're upgrading her hospital's air filters Tuesday. Thought you'd want to check the specs." Not an order, not charity, just one parent to another. The sunset painted them gold. A CEO, a former janitor, and a little girl whose dinosaur drawing was slowly taking over the picnic blanket. Ivy's oxygen monitor flashed green on her wrist. The pulse stayed steady even when she laughed so hard juice came out her nose. No one reached for dessert. The takeout bag held plain butter cookies, individually sealed with ingredient labels, in bold 14-point font. Darian kept 3 EpiPens in his jacket pocket, but they sat untouched beside folded medical clearance forms. Some journeys start with a shout across a crowded room. Some partnerships form in hospital corridors while monitors beep. Few expected this one to last beyond the crisis, yet the Ferrari still appeared each morning, now with a child safety seat installed. The hot engine ticks as the Ferrari idles outside Darian's apartment at 7:02 a.m. Ivy's backpack dangles from the passenger seat, dangling a keychain of cartoon dinosaurs. The leather upholstery still smells of wax crayons and grape juice. Some warnings only come from those who've lost everything worth keeping. A janitor saw poison where executives saw dessert. A CEO traded $250,000 for a man who smelled betrayal in shredded paper. A 6-year-old's cough became the pulse of an empire's conscience. Look closer at those you overlook. The quiet ones, the broken ones. Sometimes saviors wear janitorial blues. Pay attention.